Mother-in-law excluded me from her party because I wouldn't buy her gift, then hubby revealed why, and now she's begging for the house. I want to start this off by saying that my mother-in-law Judith, female 50, is a great woman, and I love her. What has happened is completely out of character for her, which is why I've come to Reddit for advice and to rant. I got married to my husband Arthur, male 31, 3 years ago. It's a very happy, loving, and stable marriage, so I have no complaints there. To make a better sense of what happened, it's important to know his past and family. Judith, my mother-in-law, had Arthur very young when she was only 18. Her parents didn't help her out, and she was disowned by her family and ostracized from the community for getting pregnant before marriage. Arthur's biological dad bolted 5 months into the pregnancy, saying that he wasn't ready. So my mother-in-law was all alone. She took the help of some friends, worked odd jobs, and raised Arthur by herself. She's an incredibly strong woman, and I'm in constant awe of her. When Arthur was 5 years old, my Mill got married to Isaac, my husband's stepfather. Arthur considers Isaac to be his father and calls him that. From what I've heard of him, he was a great parent to Arthur and never once made him feel like he wasn't his own. I've only heard heartwarming and positive stories about him, and my husband has great memories of his father. Isaac died when Arthur was 15. It happened suddenly, and neither my mother-in-law nor Arthur saw it coming from what I know. Mother-in-law never really recovered from the shock. Moreover, both mother-in-law and Isaac had ordinary jobs, meaning they didn't pay well. They had limited savings, and his death put my mother-in-law in a tough spot. They somehow managed to make their way through the next few years. Then, after school, Arthur got accepted into a Tier 1 college with a 100% scholarship. This made things better for both him and mother-in-law, and it kinda set up his future in a way that he would be able to climb out of the rungs of the lower class and build a better life for himself. Both my mother-in-law and I are insanely proud of Arthur for what he's achieved, considering where he came from, and to his credit, he always acknowledges the sacrifices that his mother and father made for his education, and that he'd be nowhere without their help. My story is the complete opposite of my husband's. I'm the daughter of first-generation immigrants who are obscenely rich. I come from an opulent and renowned business family, and 4 generations of my family have been in this business. Back in my home country, which is in Asia, my family is filthy rich and quite well known. My father was sent to the US to expand the business, which he was able to do successfully. My parents' marriage was arranged by my grandparents, and it's been a happy marriage if I can call it that. Basically, I was born into money. I was made extremely aware that I'd always have a lot of money at my disposal, so I didn't really need to work hard. I was always very free to follow my passions and was given the freedom to choose whatever career I wanted, if any. I've always had an affinity for the arts, so I chose to be a visual artist. It doesn't generate much income, but I have a trust fund, so I'm never strapped for money, and I don't think I ever will be. I don't mean to sound conceited at all, but this is just how it is. Added to this, when I was 19, about 9 years ago, I got a huge amount as a settlement in a discrimination lawsuit. I'm not allowed to divulge details, but I'm a woman of color, and I was treated horribly by someone in a position of power. I decided to take the legal route, and I ended up winning and getting a huge amount. My father helped me get started with all that money. Instead of spending it, we bought 2 properties and put them on rent. So apart from the money in the trust fund, I also have substantial rental income and other investments. I never need to work a single day in my life, and my money will grow. Since I have this security, I'm able to follow my passions. I'm a painter, and even though it may sound like a silly little hobby, my pieces do sell. I live a good life, and I can't complain. I met my husband 5 years ago, and we got married 3 years ago. It's a rock-solid marriage, and I feel lucky to have found someone like him. His mother, my mother-in-law, is a great woman, and she has always treated me with a lot of love and respect. I actually considered myself quite close to her, since I never had a very close emotional relationship with my parents. My father was busy looking after the business, and my mother was busy looking after my father. I had all the resources in the world, and they did the best they could for me, but the emotional angle was missing. Arthur and his mom are the complete opposite. They were always strapped for money, but they had so much love for each other. I know a lot of people don't have good relationships with their mother-in-laws, but mine has been near perfect, except for this one incident. She doesn't interfere in our lives, is warm and helpful, and I genuinely adore her, which is why her behavior baffled me. 2 years ago, I gave birth to my son, Zane. It was a difficult pregnancy and an even more difficult birth. I won't give you all the gory details, but I lost a lot of blood, and I was on complete bed rest for the next 8 weeks. It was a difficult time for us as a family, and this is when mother-in-law stepped up. She told me not to worry about a single thing and that she would help me and take care of the baby. She was an angel for us, a blessing in disguise. I know that without her, I wouldn't have made it. She moved into our house, took care of Zane and me, and just made everything so easy. Arthur did his part too. I don't mean to imply that he was a deadbeat, but well, he's the father, and that was his duty towards both me and our son. Mother-in-law did everything out of the goodness of her heart. We insisted that we would pay her, but she refused. We had been helping her financially otherwise as well, and she said she didn't need anything more from us. For context, Arthur had been sending her money since he got a job and has been covering some of her expenses every month, like clockwork. I knew this was important to him, and it was his way of thanking his mother, and I've always respected his sentiment. So after marriage, both he and I together gave her a sum of money, more than what Arthur gave her previously, that allowed her to save up a lot, enjoy her hobbies, and indulge in whatever luxuries she wanted. She never asked for a single penny, and both Arthur and I did what we did because we thought it was the right thing to do. In the marriage, even though Arthur is the one who works in the traditional sense, I bring in more money because I'm generationally loaded. Before I married him, some people told me that he was marrying me for the money, but I know my husband enough to vouch for his intentions. He's never eyed my money, and I have no reason to doubt him. This is also why I felt no qualms at all about spending money on mother-in-law. And once Zane was born and she helped me out so much, there was nothing to be suspicious of anymore. The money continued, and I want to reiterate that she never asked for a single penny. Gradually, however, she started making a few jokes here and there. Things like how she would retire soon because her son had married into money. Or that she would soon be one of those rich mother-in-laws, and maybe even start a TikTok with me. Harmless stuff said in jest, or so I thought. That's how I took it too. I thought she was joking. She always said it humorously and never gave us an inkling that she was angling for more. And to be honest, even if she was, I didn't mind. She's my family. If she needed money, I'd give it to her. If she wanted money, I'd give it to her. She never asked, and she never seemed entitled. It was just a few jokes here and there, and only within close family or amongst us four. So I never thought much of it, and it never raised any eyebrows. Now on to the issue. My mother-in-law turned 50 this year, and Arthur and I wanted to give her a nice gift. My mother-in-law has always lived in rented houses all her life. Arthur and I decided that I had enough money for a significant down payment on a house, and this would be our gift to her. My rental income from my other properties was enough for the mortgage, plus some extra. So it wouldn't really dent how we were living right now. Plus, Arthur had been planning on doing this for her when she turned 60. Given my money, we were able to push it back by 10 years, and I was happy to do this for her. I had planned this for her ever since she helped out with Zane. Ever since then, I have tried and get more information on her dream house. What she would want, what she would prefer, and things like that. I always tried to be discreet, and I gradually gathered enough information to get a house built according to her liking. So we bought the property and gradually modified it over the next few months to suit her needs. For instance, my mother-in-law always wanted to adopt a cat, so we made sure to include a small space for a cat. It wasn't a sprawling space. It was a 2-room unit with ample ventilation and greenery. Not massive, but also not tiny. It was almost 100% equal to what she was looking for. Plus, we had to be very secretive and sneaky with the planning and modifications. This was to be a surprise for her, and we would give her the keys to the apartment on the day of her birthday. It was all planned well in advance, and both Arthur and I were very excited about her reaction. However, what ended up happening was the complete opposite of what we had anticipated. A few weeks before her birthday, we had mother-in-law over for dinner. She was playing with Zane, and we were talking about the latest piece I made. Mid-sentence, she abruptly says that she needs to talk to me. I asked her what was up, and she said she wanted a particular necklace for her birthday, and she wanted to wear it for her party. Now the necklace in question was quite expensive, and I was a little hesitant because we had already put in so much money for the house. However, I didn't know how to say no, so in the moment I told her that I'd try to get her that necklace. She was visibly annoyed when I said that, which is quite unlike her. She didn't say much at the time, but I knew she had made a sour face. Things were awkward after that, and she left after a while. Right after she was gone, I told Arthur about what happened. He said I had to outright say no but would also have to tell her that we had something else for her, and that was why we couldn't get her the necklace. I decided to wait for a few days to see if things got better. If she didn't ask for the necklace again, there was no need for me to text her and remind her that I wouldn't be giving her the gift she wanted. 4 or 5 days after this incident, mother-in-law dropped a text. The text read that she really wanted us to gift her that necklace and that it was the only thing she'd ever demanded from us. I replied that I knew she wanted the necklace, but Arthur and I had already purchased a gift for her, and we were very sorry that we couldn't get her the necklace. We knew she'd love what we had gotten for her, and it was only a matter of a few days until we gave it to her. I tried being as polite as possible in the text because I didn't want her to feel like we didn't want to give her a gift. She didn't respond to the text, and I figured she was upset, so I wanted to give her space. What happened next completely blew my mind. By the next day, she had put up a huge post on Facebook, ranting about how she couldn't believe she had an ungrateful child and that there was just one thing she wanted from me, and despite having the money, and exploiting her labor all these years, I was still unwilling to give her a tiny gift of her liking. The post was a complete slander of me and my character, even going so far as to call me a rich, snobby, and snooty stuck-up. I'm not on Facebook, so I only found out about the post after almost every family member had seen it. One of Arthur's cousins sent the link to us, and I was appalled at all the hateful things she was writing. It was just so out of character for her, and she had completely maligned my image in front of the entire family. Although it was both Arthur and I who had told her that we wouldn't be able to give her the gift she wanted, she only targeted me in her post, going as far as to say that Arthur was under my influence and I controlled him with my money. It was a show through and through, and I felt so bad that she would think, let alone write, all this about me. I was crying, and Arthur tried his best to comfort me, but I was inconsolable. He said he'd talk to her and request she take the post down if that made me feel better. He called her up and asked her to take the post down, and that just because we weren't giving her the necklace she wanted didn't mean we weren't giving her anything at all. She doubled down on what she was saying and was even more hurtful and bitter on the call. It felt like talking to a poisonous snake, and no matter what Arthur said, she wouldn't listen. She also said she wouldn't take down the Facebook post, and that she didn't want to associate with a hateful woman like me ever again. She said she'd never be running any errands for us or helping us out with anything. All in all, it was a totally unproductive call that not only made things worse but also got me uninvited from her birthday party. Arthur realized that there was no point in talking to her anymore and disconnected the call. I was miserable for the next couple of days, and Arthur tried his best to be there for me. He was furious at his mother and refused to pick up her calls. Whenever I asked him what we were going to do, he said I should leave everything to him and not worry about what was going to happen. Cue her birthday, and things came to a boiling point. Arthur went to the birthday party with no gift in hand. Mother-in-law was cordial with him, from what he said, but there was still a lot of tension in the air. Many of her friends and family were present, so Arthur just mingled with other people. Most, however, steered clear of him, because I'm guessing all of them had read the Facebook post. Now at the end of the party, mother-in-law had planned to open her gifts. Before she could get on with that, Arthur got up and said that he had something for her. He said he was very thankful that he had a mother like her and that he was who he was largely because of the efforts and sacrifices she'd made throughout his childhood. He said he'd always tried his best to be a good son, so much so that he'd been sending her monthly payments ever since he got a job. He'd told me before going to the party that he'd be saying this, and I'd begged him not to cause chaos. But he was insistent, saying that if mother-in-law put up her side of the story, he had every right to clarify his side. Once he said the part about regular monthly payments, mother-in-law got visibly uncomfortable, and there were a lot of long looks and glances around the table. He went on to say that he was so sorry for his mother's stupidity because little did she know that he and I had bought a house for her, that we had been working on for almost a year, to turn her into a homeowner and allow her to retire early. He had made a PowerPoint of the entire house, with the rooms, the yard, and everything, and showed it to everyone at the party on the screen. He said he couldn't believe that mother-in-law was willing to let it all go for a necklace, despite him and me repeatedly telling her that we had something planned for her. He said he was sorry we didn't get her the necklace, and he decided to sell the house, buy the necklace she wanted, and keep the rest of the money. By the end of his long speech, mother-in-law was in tears, and everyone else was disapproving of what she'd done. He then excused himself and doesn't know what happened afterward, but he feels much better after calling mother-in-law out for what she did. I don't know where I stand with all this because I'm generally not a very confrontational person, and I do feel bad for her, but I also think she went a little too far with the Facebook post. A cousin of his has been trying to get in touch with me, but I haven't returned her calls yet. I don't know what we're going to do, but I just want the drama to be over. Update: I have a small update, even though it's relatively minor and not nearly as dramatic as Reddit would want. Arthur and I decided that we're going to put the house up for rent. It's a beautiful property, the interiors are new, and we were very meticulous in ensuring there should be no hurdles for mother-in-law. I genuinely feel this house has the potential to fetch us a great sum and be a source of regular income for us. We listed the flat 2 days ago, and we already have some queries. We'll be taking our time in deciding who to rent it to because we want decent tenants who will be trouble-free. My mother-in-law hasn't reached out to us yet, and I don't think she will. The public humiliation and embarrassment she's faced will stick with her for a long time. I had told Arthur to go soft on her, maybe tell her in private, but he was furious with her because of how she treated me. He said that she chose to make everything public and slander me on social media, so he was going to make everything public too. He even said she should be grateful he did it in front of friends and not on social media for the entire world to see. Some of his cousins have reached out. One section of them has called us out for ruining a milestone birthday and creating a spectacle of it all. Another section, on the other hand, supports us and says that she should have known what she's lost in her greed and pettiness. I don't really pay much heed to these messages because frankly, I don't have the energy for this drama that's erupted into a volcano for no reason at all. I just want to stay away from it all, but I know that's not a possibility. My mother-in-law is going to get in touch with us someday, I just hope it's not for a long time. We can't keep her out of Zane's life, she's been a good grandmother to him and has been there for him ever since he was born. So this stalemate has to end one day. I just hope and pray I get some peace and quiet before I'm ready to deal with all of this again. Update 2, I read all of your comments, and they've been very helpful. I've always been a non-confrontational person, and I've never liked fighting or not being in contact with people I'm close to. Reddit made me realize that what Arthur did was the right thing, even though it ruined my mother-in-law's birthday. We've gone above and beyond to ensure she lives a good and comfortable life, even though we, especially I, don't owe her that. I bought that house for her out of the goodness of my heart and because of the bond we shared, but she completely sullied it because she couldn't take no for an answer. I also realized that this has been the only time she's asked for something that hasn't been given to her. She's never had to ask us for anything. We do it ourselves before the chance even arises for her to ask. Whether she feels entitled to getting everything she wants, I don't know. But her reaction to a polite no was unexpected and can't be overlooked any longer. This brings me to the actual update. The house has been rented out. We gave it to a newly retired couple and their 2 pets, 1 dog and 1 cat. They seemed very pleasant, and both Arthur and I have a good feeling about them. The lease has been signed, and they'll be moving in very soon. I'm glad they have pets because we made tiny areas in the apartment keeping my mother-in-law's wish of adopting a cat in mind. Thankfully, all that effort won't go to waste. While this was happening on one hand, there's been a dramatic turn of events on the other. Mother-in-law reached out to us. By us, I mean Arthur. At least she started that way. In the initial few messages, she acted as if nothing was wrong at all. She wanted to brush everything under the rug and pretend there had been no fight whatsoever. But Arthur wasn't having it. He was very cold and curt in his replies, and I think she understood that there was no wriggling her way out of this one. She then finally asked him to come over with me so we could talk it out. Arthur said he'd talk to me and let her know. I told him I wasn't comfortable meeting her at her house, so if we met, it would either be at our place or in a public place. Secondly, I didn't want Zane around when she came because there was a chance the meeting could turn ugly, and no matter what, I didn't want Zane to witness any of this. He had no business seeing his parents and grandmother fight each other. Arthur thought a public place might be too noisy for a meeting and that none of us would be able to express ourselves properly there. So ultimately, we decided we would meet her at our place. When the same was relayed to her, she was adamant at first but ultimately gave in because we gave her no room for negotiation. She came over, and initially, it was very awkward. Then, instead of apologizing for her behavior or at least acknowledging her role in the entire chaos she caused, she had the audacity to ask me for the keys to the house. That's when I knew that all of you were correct, and she was greedy from the inside. I couldn't help but laugh in her face when she said that. She turned red with embarrassment. I tried to remain as dignified as possible and said that we had unfortunately rented the property out to someone, but we'd be giving her the necklace as requested. She looked at Arthur as if waiting for him to call out my bluff, but he just shrugged. That's when she started saying we couldn't do this to her, and the house was hers because we had bought it for her birthday, and that she was being gracious by still accepting the offer, considering we ruined her 50th birthday. I didn't know what to say to that, and neither did Arthur, because the next thing I know, he was ushering her out of the house. She refused to go and started screaming at him, saying that I had him completely under my spell and that I was a witch who'd taken her baby boy away from her. It was so cringe, it made me barf, if I'm being honest. I didn't even try to stop Arthur or get in between them. I just told her that I believed she'd overstayed her welcome and that her pretty necklace would be delivered to her as promised. As for Zane, she's free to meet him whenever she wants, but it will always be supervised. I will not be letting my son meet her unsupervised. She's a viper, and if she can try to poison my husband against me, who's to say she won't do it with my son? She ran away in tears after that, and I think both Arthur and I are blocked, so I don't think she's interested in meeting Zane anymore. The option is always open to her if she wants, but I'm done being the bigger person. Update 3, hi everyone. I had logged off Reddit and forgotten about the account, so I'm sorry about that. The necklace was delivered to mother-in-law as promised. What she's done with it, I don't know. The monthly payments to her continue like before because, whether we like it or not, she did raise my husband and did it really well, and helped me when I needed her. She's asked to see Zane a couple of times, but we're still firm on the part where we won't be letting her meet him unsupervised. She's unwilling to accept the condition, and if that's her hill to die on, so be it. I'm done helping her or trying to make excuses for her behavior. She dug this grave for herself, and if she can't put her ego aside to make amends with her only family, she's the one who's going to lose out. There will be no more updates because there's nothing else to share. I came here to rant, and I sincerely hope I don't have to go through something like this in my life ever again.